the channel. We're looking at the JMP1 Overdrive 1 channel. Did a quick video on the clean channel 1 and kind of how I set it up, and today we're going to be looking at the first drive channel in this thing. And then, as far as I'm concerned, it's the only usable drive channel in this thing. OD2 is good, but OD1 just sounds better. It's voiced better, and to my ear, I think it actually sounds more like a Marshall than Overdrive 2. But anyway, what you heard there in that first portion of the video was 93 Gibson Les Paul going through my pedal board into the JMP1. I'm taking a line out of the back of the JMP1 through the Fry power station. That's being mic'd with a 57 on the floor here. I'm taking another line out going direct into the interface. That is being that has a IR on it from Torpedo Wall of Sound, and it's the Big Hairy Cabs IR from Michael Nielsen. It is the Vintage 30 or the V30 IR, which I believe is his Bogner cabinet. But anyway, yeah, I have some effects going through the effects loop on the Fryette, so I'm going to kick in some of those. You can kind of hear a reverb there. That's the Glitz reverb patch from my Pod Go. So we're going to kick in a couple delay patches, and I've been listening to a lot of 90s Van Halen, so I have a dual pitch patch that I'm going to throw in here eventually. But I kicked in a super overdrive there at the beginning, so here's kind of our raw sound. And that's your hot rodded JCM 800, or a Dimes JCM 800. And what I did through the front end here was just kick on the super overdrive, and it really made it scream. So yeah, let's take you through the settings on the JMP. Like I said, Overdrive 1 channel. This is patch 12. Not that it makes a difference, but volume I have at 18. Could probably bump that up. Let's bring that up. Just dime it. Bring the output level down a little bit. Gain 11. So this thing's got a boatload of gain in it to kind of give you a reference. For about halfway. It really gives it that good punchy Marshall, just enough, and then when you need more, you kick in your overdrive. Bass, this thing needs a lot of bass. It's just voiced that way, so I have the bass maxed right now on 6. Mids are at -1. Hopefully you can see that. Treble's at 3, presence is at 3, effect is at 0. So yeah, let's bring it back to volume. Actually, let's go to patch. That way I don't monkey with anything. Overdrive 2, man, it could have been a lot more. I feel like it's kind of more of a modern voiced. I'll just kick it over to Overdrive 2, keep the same set. It really bumps up the mid-range, and there's actually a little bit of a volume boost there too. I'm going to bring down the output level. Overdrive 2, it's kind of honky, and you can take that out by taking the, you just hit the mid-range or the middle control and take that out. But for whatever reason, it just doesn't really, do it for me. So let's go back to Overdrive 1. Let's go to back to patch. There. I'll say this, when you're going direct with it, it needs a little bit of power amp love, I think. So I use the Torpedo Wallace Sound power amp emulator. I'm not using it right now because I actually have a speaker cab mic'd up. It does get a little bit digital sounding when going direct, but coming through a speaker cabinet, it sounds great. So on the Fryette, I don't really have a lot of EQ dialed in. I have the presence and the depth up, maybe at 1 o'clock, volumes just up. And the edge or the warm and bright settings are both in the middle. The dip switches are both in the middle. So that's your EQ from the analog equipment. Let's throw the Super Overdrive in front of it and a little bit of delay in the loop of the Fryette and see how that sounds. Pretty cool. You get a pretty tough sound when you throw that Super Overdrive in front of it. The delay, that just adds the goodness. But there's one other thing I wanted to touch on this, and that was the bass shift control. The bass shift control. So there's our normal sound. Here's what the bass shift dialed in. It kind of gives it like a flubby lower mid thing that I don't really know what they were going for there. Maybe it was just for it to be like a little bit more modern voiced. These came out kind of at the beginning of the 90s where grunge was huge and people really liked that super distorted, fuzzy type sound. Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins used these. Everybody used one of these back in the day. It was actually a pretty advanced piece of gear. But it's just not really the sound for me. It doesn't really do anything for the tone besides add kind of the lower end that you don't want, that you want to always kind of try and dial out. So not really sure what the plan was there. Maybe they were trying to make it sound like an amp working harder, or couldn't tell you. Would love to know if there's any input as to why they put the bass shift control in there. I realize that they have like deep switches on some of their amps now, or I don't think they had the deep switches back then. I'm imagining it's the same type of technology. There's a lot of digital and analog circuitry in here. It is a tube preamp, and the tubes are doing something. I'm not quite sure. Dave Friedman touched on it a little bit. Your signal does go through the tubes in this thing, but it's not necessarily tube distortion that you're getting. A lot of that is actually analog distortion, or like an overdrive pedal. So that being said, it's a great unit. I finally got my hands on one. It's been a dream of mine to own for a long time, and I finally got one. So I've played it live a couple times. It sounded great. It's pretty reliable. The one that I got actually is incredibly clean for the price I paid for it. But it's really interesting to see the rack stuff kind of come back in style, obviously with the Synergy modules. And I just saw on Musician's Friend the other day that Mesa has their dual rectifier rack mount. They have a triple crown rack mount. I think they have a Badlander rack mount as well. So maybe the racks are back. Maybe I'm living in the 90s. I don't know. It sounds great, but really look forward to using it for some recording and using it live. I really enjoy it. Finally got one. So I said I was dealing, or I was monkeying around a little bit with some Van Halen sounds out of this, and I have a dual pitch queued up from the Pod Go. I don't set mine quite as heavy as Eddie set his. I set mine kind of at 5 cents and 5 cents. I know he went all the way out to 9 at one point, which is just kind of like how far you're taking that signal and widening it out, like past the actual pitch. So it was 9 cents above and 9 cents below, and that's what a lot of people get wrong, but I have it at 5.5 cents up and 5.5 cents down, so it's actually very subtle, and I took the mix out of Gotta love it. I do. So that was a cool sound I was playing around with a little bit, and I'll probably do quite a bit more of that. I love me some 90s Van Halen. I actually read a couple places that he threw a super overdrive in front of his Soldano at one point in time. Like and subscribe if you like the video, if you like the tone. I'm going to try and get new videos out every week. So we'll see you in the next one.